Hey, Tommy, something was on my spirit. Before we get this kicked off, do you mind if we bow our heads in prayer? Father God, we come to you today humble and receiving. I ask that you allow everyone in this room to hear us clearly, to take away what they need, and let it grow with them. Allow them to grow through what they're going through. You said when two or more are gathered, you are in the midst, and we appreciate you for being here. With that said, let us continue to grow and prosper and continue to be healthy, because health, happiness, and peace are keys to life that we all need. In your name, amen.
Amen.
Amen, amen.
All right, so I'm going to start with an easy question. What's the hardest lesson you've learned being married?
That's easy.
No, it's not.
I mean, so just for context, you guys, my name is Jarius, by the way. I have been married for 7 years this upcoming January, and I've been together for 12 years. And the biggest lesson that I have learned thus far is to check that damn ego at the door. For me, I think as a black man, growing up in the South especially, a lot of my personality, a lot of feelings and expression was oftentimes suppressed. And, you know, you were told to be strong and, you know, to do this and to do that. And I feel like that creates a lot of negativity inside of you. And I feel like I came into my relationship hell on wheels. I came up in my relationship angry. And I remember being very childish. I remember being not ready to give the love that I was receiving. And in the process, I ended up hurting my partner a lot. But over time, I realized that the biggest thing that I could have taken from the situation that I had created and the environment that I created was looking myself in the mirror and saying, what am I doing wrong? And how can I grow not only for my relationship, but for me, myself? And that was checking myself. And I feel like the biggest thing that I was seeing in the mirror was looking at a person that only wanted to exist in right. I looked at myself and only wanting to exist in just knowing that I run everything and that I have all the answers. And I ain't no shit. I mean, I got with my spouse when I was 18. So I definitely didn't know anything, and I'll be 31 tomorrow. So thank you. So the biggest thing is just, you know, checking the ego at the door and just really being real with yourself and knowing that, you know, we all have healing and growth that we need to do amongst ourselves before we can be ready for anybody else.
One of the things for me, I wouldn't say it was a hard thing, but more so of an enlightenment, and it's that love is not enough. And what I mean by that is, I've said this a lot, is that two powerful words that we overlook in relationships is fun and like. A lot of people don't like the person they love, right? So when you marry your friend or you're in a relationship with a friend or your girlfriend or your homies, it's because you enjoy their presence, right? You like being around them. So when you start to have, or when you have monetary value, you got finances, you got the cars, you got the tangible items, you have all of that, but you're like, this is just so boring. I don't even want to go home, or this is mundane. It's because the person that is at home you don't like. There's a lot of people that don't like their person. It's like, I can love my uncle, I can love my father, I can love my friends. I love you, but I'm not in love with you, right? Which starts to build resentment, which starts to do things where you don't want to do anything with that person. So now the fun starts to fade again, and you start not liking that person all over again. So the enlightenment for me was, I got to start putting that likability back on so we can continue to like each other and be friends and understand that the world has told us all you need is love. Yes, as human beings, all we need is love. But when it comes to this relationship thing, we need a little bit more than just that.
Did you have to learn that the hard way?
Did I have to learn it the hard way? No. Like I said, it was more of an enlightenment to where I realized that what is this thing that's going on as to why we're not working? And I step back and go, today, and when we've discussed it. Like, I'm like, I don't like you right now, and we need to fix that. And we've worked on that to where we discuss and openly have communication to where if something's bothering us, we're going to talk about it. So when we figured that out, we understood that we can't just be parents. We can't just be partners, right? We got to do these date days. We got to continue to date. We got to have fun. We got to laugh. We got to have these moments. We stopped doing the gifts. We've done experiences over materials now because everything else fades, right? So we want to step back and create nothing but experiences. Because if I give you $100 and you give me $100 back, what's the point? But if we go create some memories, they're everlasting.
I'm gonna say this, and I think this is vital for people who are about to get married or just getting married. The hardest thing for me, honestly, especially as a black man, was being vulnerable with my finances. And when I'm saying being vulnerable with my finances, being vulnerable with my partner and letting her into my bank account, right? There's one thing as you want to keep up. You want to like, oh yeah, I bought my girl this, or I take you out here, or I take you out there. For my wife now, and hey baby, my wife and myself, we're actors, right? My wife was already at a certain level because of her good fortune from the Lord above. She was already established financially. When I met my wife, I was coming in to start to my career and lifestyle starting to change. I used to valet park cars at the top of 2020. So here I come at her, and she's been in a very successful show for the past 2 years. So that account is nice. You know what I mean? But I'm coming in trying to keep up with her because I felt that my value lied in provision. And sometimes, especially when you have a woman who is her own woman and has her own stuff, the provision that you are providing, it can be on an emotional level and a loving level more so. I thought finances. And I was honestly very, very scared to show my wife my bank account because I felt inadequate because it didn't match up to hers yet. And until I was able to get over that mental block myself and say, hey, your dad was an accountant, right? I didn't grow up in a family that taught me about being economically savvy or taught me the rules. You know this. And I heard the wise speak before, and I just heard you. You're better at this than me. You have X amount of dollars. I only have this right now, right? Even though it's nice, but can you help me? Can you look at my thing and help me get to where you are? Because I got to take out my ego. And if I want you for real and you want me for real, I got to let you in on all things. And for men, that is a big thing when it comes to finances and trying to keep up or trying to portray something. And that was my hardest thing that I had to break from myself.
And how does she respond?
Huh?
And how does she respond?
Great point.
Can I tell you, if it's your partner and your soulmate and they love you and they trust you, can I be honest? My wife said, I already knew. No, she really did. Like, I mean, I really, and shout out to the black woman. I'm so sorry. That black woman, that successful black queen knows me better than I know myself. My wife literally said, you came on my show. Like, seriously, you think I don't know how much you were making? I was already in season 3 of my show when you started season 1 of your show, and I know how many episodes you do. I know I'm a numbers girl. I know the whole thing. I was just waiting for you. And once I did that, when I tell you, man, it was so freeing. And we got even closer, and I'll stop.
So, real quickly, talked about sort of the same kind of idea earlier this morning with DeVal, and there's this, it's often hard to be vulnerable. Like something like that where it's seemingly against how we were brought up and the people that we were around and, you know, the presenting in a certain way. And when you do it, if it's not handled in the right way. Like, this is me talking to everybody, whereas like the vulnerability, the way that it is responded to matters so much, because it could have been crushing. Yeah. It could have been the type of thing that you love each other, you like each other, but you can no longer be open and vulnerable because you are terrified that the other person is going to take advantage of that. And the fact that she didn't allows for you to get even closer moving forward, because you know that as a man, the person on the other side, whoever, like he believes in you and wants to be there and wants the best for you. But it's a hard thing. And if it's not handled right, I don't know how to come back from it, like without a lot of conversation. And it's not about saying something. It's not about, oh yeah, you should be vulnerable, I'm gonna be okay. But yeah, when I did it, you didn't support me. Yeah. And now I don't know how to not be afraid that it's gonna happen again. And so, which is why her responding in that way allows for you to get even closer and take the next step in a way where you can feel confident. And so I'm really happy to hear that.
Thank you.
To piggyback off your point, I want to say one of the tougher things for me was learning to honor each other's emotional experience, so not to persecute her for what she was feeling or for her particular experience, as opposed to me wanting her to be exactly or something that I would want her to be, you know what I'm saying, showing up in a particular way, so she show up authentically herself, down to what you're saying. If I go and say, I want you to act differently or to be some other way, then it helps her to not feel safe anymore. So I think that was one of the things that I had to learn, to be able to honor her space and honor, even if I don't agree, be able to honor where she is and say, you know what, I'm sorry for doing that, and how can we move through this particular situation, but not just persecuting her off the rip. Naturally, like I would maybe do in the past, and just going at her and be like, man, why are you coming at me? Why are you coming at me like this? Or why this thing? Or you know what I mean? I didn't do anything, or feeling like the victim in the situation, but just recognizing that she is also too having an emotional experience, that I'm also having an emotional experience, and that it's not about right or wrong, but it's just about where we are in that particular moment, you know what I'm saying? And what we can agree on in that moment, you know what I'm saying? So that's what I would say, for sure.
I do, and the thing is, like, you two both talked about like this idea of right or wrong, which is hard for me because I like logic. I like things that make sense. Relationships don't always make sense. I love my wife. Sometimes.
Don't end on the sometimes, man. I love my wife. Sometimes did it hurry up?
But the idea of Cody and I were doing an interview in DC a long time ago. It was at the early days of Black Love, and I remember this couple saying something that there were a lot of things that we heard that made sense, but it was just like, ugh. And it doesn't have to make sense. It just has to make peace. And so the idea of that for me is like, no. Like, why can't we have both? Like, why can't we have sense and peace? Or sort of taking it a step beyond that is, it doesn't have to make sense, but it's what's more important, like being right or being married? Right. Like, really? And it's like, what's more important? Is it more important that you are right, but at the expense of the other person's well-being, or at the expense of your relationship? And
you get nothing.
No.
You get nothing after you're right.
No.
When you looking at your partner, and because it's a war almost, right? And you guys are in battle, and you're going back and forth, and you're arguing, and at the end of it, you win. But look at what you're looking at. You looking at a person that that you say that you love, that you say that you care for, and that you're supposed to protect and make feel safe. You done just broke this person down. And for me personally, I have been on the receiving side of having my core broken down. And that tears you up. And you done already got it so much growing up. And, to sit and to look at a person that, is supposed to be not your everything, but a person that you're supposed to love truly, and to be able to do that, I just think is one of the most disrespectful things that you could ever do in a relationship is to break your person down when you're supposed to be there to help build them up.
Let me build on that even more, because now that the men are on the stage, right? And this is not to point any fingers, but statistically, for the most part, it's the men that are usually being broken down emotionally, as far as being told, you know, you're not enough, you don't make enough, you should be like this, you're not tall enough, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm bringing that up because of what you said earlier, how you were vulnerable, right? And if he would have been told the wrong thing, he would have bottled back up and never said it again. Because when it comes to men, as strong as you may be or how big someone may be, they're extremely fragile emotionally when it comes to verbal. But on the flip side, when it comes to women, if we touch you or physically do anything to you, that's your weakness. So we can tell you something all day. All you're going to do is go, mm-hmm, uh-huh. Wait till he finishes. I'm about to tear him apart, right? But let us touch you. You like, ooh, for months. On the flip side, now you let her hit you, whatever you like. Can you stop playing? Stop playing. All right. But let her say, you ain't never going to be enough. Your daddy wasn't enough. You ain't going to never. That will sit with a man for weeks, months to end. And it will kill them
forever.
Emotionally. Some forever, yes. And then when you think about that, then when you think about forever, it's like, how did that person grow up? What were they told as a kid? Or what did they lack as a kid to where now as a man, they don't know how to talk to their partner, or they don't know how to receive what their partner is saying. So to build on what you said as well, as far as be careful with what you say, even to each other, versus playing it as the media. Monday, you're going to bring it up. Tuesday, you're going to bring it up. Wednesday, you're going to bring it up. It's not what you say. It's how you say it and when you say it.
I agree with that. And to piggyback on that, I would like to say I live my life by this quote, and it was told to me by Debbie Allen, and it is so true. Perception is a learned phenomenon. And I added my own little thing to it. Perception and perspective is a learned phenomenon. How you view the world, or how you view what's right or what's enough or what's not enough, is based on your perception. And your perception has formed into consciousness based on your past experiences, right? So when you date a person or when you get married to a person, you're not just dating that person in that moment, you're dating that person's past, their trauma, you're marrying all of that stuff, right? So if you're gonna have a cohesive and communicative, that's the key word, communicative relationship, you have to understand that, be self-aware enough to be like, hey, my perception of this specific circumstance is not right or wrong. It's different than the other person based on their past or based on their experiences, right? So, yes, as a man, words hurt. I'm telling everybody out there. I always say I don't keep tabs. I don't remember. I don't have time to keep tabs on what you did. But I remember how you made me feel and when you made me feel that way. And if you don't give me trust and safety in our relationship, how can I respond to you effectively, right? How do you do that? Ken mentioned earlier, we started couples therapy prior to our marriage, not because it was anything wrong. It's just like, are you going to start to brush your teeth when you have a cavity? You know what I mean? So we started it at the point where, hey, we know that we want each other. We don't need each other. You got your life, you got your money, I got my life, I got my money, I have friends. We don't need each other. We want each other, so we're going to work at this. Let's go to therapy to see what's going on. And we started saying, and I'll wrap it up, overshare. Before you say something to me that I don't like, or I say something to you that I don't like, wait, what I said this, but what did you hear? Or wait, you said this, but I heard this. And let me clear that up, because that's where you can stop a lot of stuff. Because we don't, just because they say it, don't mean we heard it right.
And yeah, I agree with that. I think part of, on the other side, sort of what I struggled with, and it's taken a while to understand how to be a better husband and how to deal with it, is I'm not, like, when there's a disagreement, I'm not emotional in disagreements. Cody's a very emotional person. And it's not about right or wrong, but her perception of something, to your point, matters a lot. But if, for me, it's like I'm a details person, I'm a logical person, and we would sometimes get into it because, oh, that's not actually how it happened, or that's not the sort of thing. And for her, I'm missing the fucking point. But it's like, yeah, but this and then this and then this, and she's just, and it's like, I'm like, you don't get it, and she's like, yeah, you don't either. And, and it's taken time for me to realize that the making sure that I honor her emotions the same way that we need for our vulnerability to be supported and nurtured, the way we're in those places, even if I'm not there, even if she is at an 8 and I'm at a 2, I can't, what I would do is, because whatever it is, like we're talking about something that to me isn't a big deal. It's legitimately a 2. But for whatever reason, whether it's a trigger or something we've discussed before that I've forgotten about that she didn't really get over, and it's at an 8 and I'm treating it like a 2, then it's minimizing how she feels. And I had to learn that we both have to work on it, but all I can do is control me. I can't control how she's coming into that situation, but I can control how I facilitate the conversation on my end. And so I've got to try to figure out, well, why is it an 8 for her? Like, why is it more than what's going on? And how do, even if it's not a big deal for me, make sure that she knows that I care about her and want to do my best in order to hear where she's coming from and know that we're in it together. Because otherwise, it's the same kind of thing where she's coming at something emotionally and I'm not supporting how she feels, which is dangerous.
Because they want to feel protected as well. And if you don't provide
Yes.
a place of protection, how can she trust you?
That's for sure. No, you're both saying the same thing, which coincides with each other, meaning where for my wife, one of her quote-unquote love languages is security. She wants to be safe, and it doesn't
I didn't know that was a love language.
It's not. It's hers.
He said, my wife.
So, for instance, to simplify it, periodically I would leave our garage door unlocked. You got the door to the garage and then the door that gets out the garage. And that's one of her pet peeves. And she would get so riled up about it. And I'm like, we're safe, we're good. And there was a moment where she, she let me in to a bit of her past and why security matters so much. And in that moment, locking the door was bigger than just turning it. You get what I'm saying?
Yep.
It was bigger than making sure the door was locked and no intruders was coming in. It was more than that. So you really got to dive in and figure out, why are you so upset? It doesn't mean nothing to me, but because it matters to you a lot, it got to mean something to me then. Right. You feel what I mean?
So there's this idea that I think is really important, which is uncommunicated expectations. They're dangerous. And so I think on both sides. And so for me, part of it is like I expect people to be adults, which is like, but it's also like I don't mean that in sort of just like, for me it's like I can't judge somebody on something that I have not verbalized. I can't judge somebody based off of, here's this thing that I think you should do because of all these other expectations, but I never told you that. And so, but we both had to get to that place to understand that was even a thing. And so even the phrase, like, uncommunicated expectations. And so people go into marriage and they think, oh, well, this is the marriage that I saw in real life or on TV, and the wife is supposed to do this, the husband's supposed to do this, the husband's supposed to do this, whatever it may be, but you never actually talked about it. But I'm mad that you're not doing this thing, and I'm judging you based off of that. And so the idea of, like, sometimes the locking the door is bigger than that, and ideally we get to a place where we're able to communicate why it's a big deal and it's not a blow up. But what I've learned in marriage is that even if the other person doesn't do that, we need to be able to give the space to not get mad at them to all the time because we're never going to be perfect.
I agree with that. And I agree with that so much, too. It's something you said that was very poignant. You said what we saw that marriage was supposed to be like. That is the biggest thing that me and Kay are against. Because at the end of the day, your marriage is not an idea. An idea is what we saw on TV. Idea is what we may have seen with our parents because they didn't let us in. We don't know what pillow talk was. Marriage needs to be customizable to the two people that's in it.
And that's it. And it's not your mama, it's not your daddy,
It's not your friends,
it's not your
it's not
best
your
friend.
mama.
It's none of
Because
those people.
at the end of the day, I heard the women up here before, and I mean, I was about to shout because there are certain things that she's better at than me. There are certain things that I'm better at than her. There's a certain way she communicates emotionally. Honestly, Kay is more like you. Tommy, she's like, it's logical. I'm an Aquarius. I'm emotional. I'm like, learn me, girl. You see me doing da-da-da-da. Don't ask me no questions. But the fun part about that is figuring out each other. Yeah. Kay's mother, honestly, and I'll finish, stayed with us for 6 weeks. Best time I had in my life, but you know what her mama never did? Her mom was like, that's y'all marriage. Mm-hmm. It's the two people in it. Every marriage is customizable to what works for each and every person inside that particular union. Nobody else. And nobody else got to know.
Yes.
Unless it's your therapist.
Uh-huh.
You know what? That's
because-
a little the thing that people don't appreciate either, because not everybody mama, stay out of their business. And I ain't saying nothing about my mother-in-law, but not everybody mother-in-laws, lead
they
up
filming
to
this,
y'all.
right? They filming.
You got to go home.
So,
Hold
actually,
So, to build on that, KJ, I mean, look, I'm talking about you saying KJ.
Hey, it's all good.
Sky,
We won.
y'all won. Look, y'all won.
people call me Cody all the time.
There's no rule books to relationships. And when you try to create a rule book because society said, well, when you get married, this is supposed to happen, and this is supposed to happen, that's where you start to build resentment in your relationship, because one of the killers is comparison. You start comparing your relationship to somebody else's relationship. Let's just say, hypothetically, when they met, they based it off of society. Sky's friends or KJ's friends would have been like, he ain't got no money, girl. That ain't your man. That is not your man.
They
Okay?
did.
They wouldn't be. They would not be where they
And
are.
now look 3 years later, what they saying, baby?
And let me tell you why that resonates. If my mama was here, I would put her on the spot. There was a point in my life, this is my second marriage. There was a point in my life where I went through a transition, right? And my mother holds no bars. My wife came over to my mother's house where I was staying at the point of transition, and she goes, you know he broke, right? Out of nowhere. And I'm like, what the? Ma, why would you say that? See, she did that, though, because she's like, I want to protect the both of you before you get too far, and he hasn't told you yet. Luckily, I done laid it all out. Because after my second marriage, I said, never, ever again will I approach a marriage without being in a proper place where someone can come in and start judging me and pulling me apart because of what society has said. You're not about to approach me and say, well, you ain't got the right car, you ain't got the right money, you ain't got this, it's not gonna work. Had my wife approached me with that situation, we wouldn't have our TV show, we wouldn't have our 3 kids, we wouldn't have what we have and where we're getting ready to go. But because God was on us, because God was on her and her spirit, she saw beyond that. She saw what I was capable of and what we were capable of as a union, right? So there are no rule books when it comes to this relationship thing. Don't compare yours to what you see on TV or what you see on this stage. It doesn't matter. You two got to figure that out, just like he said, because if you keep comparing, it's going to die. It's going to die, and that resentment is going to build up big time.
Was that a question over there? I saw a hand.
No, that was a amen, brother.
That is a question. Is it a question? Huh? All right, go for it.
All right, how y'all doing?
Stand up. Let me see your face.
Oh, God, Jesus Christ.
Come on, stand up, girl.
Hey, all right, so my name is Snook. This is my wife. We've been together almost 20 years. And so, thank you.
Come on, Snook.
Thank you. All right. So my question was, I work a lot, and I know you all are pretty busy guys. So I want to know, is it overwhelming when you all are trying to have the marriage, that time for just you all, the kids, and still working as much as you all do, and still how do you keep that peace in your mind? You know, how do you keep that peace and go through that transition of still being married, happily married, you know, on a consistent basis? So like for me, you know, I own my own company, and before I even got my own company, I'm 99 hours a week consistently. And she's like, babe, you need to chill. Like, what you doing? I'm like, I'm just trying to take care of this family, you know? And so I just want to understand, like, basically, are you all able, outside of God, just on this man earth, how are you able to keep a peace of mind and still make her happy, you're happy, the kids? It's a lot of work in being a man, with me being a stud. So I'm just asking. Yeah, I'm a stud, baby. so if you didn't know, you know now.
Just to clear some things
I don't
up.
want to be clear. He's like, stand up, girl, now. So I want to be clear. But yeah, anyway, if y'all can answer that question.
Yeah, I would say I can speak to that. You know, traveling, you know, constantly and being on the road. It's interesting because I always felt like I was in a space of where, you know, I was always dedicating or claiming that I was dedicating my life and the things that I was doing for my family. But I started recognizing, I'm like, man, you doing all of this, you traveling the world, doing the things that you like to do, but at the same time, you missing time and energy and, you know what I mean, and like intentionality with your family. So for me, I started to recognize, I was like, you know, taking care of my family doesn't look like me being away from them per se, but being present, spending time with them, showing up to that game, you know, showing up to that graduation. And I think mainly just prioritizing those things, you know, and if not, keeping an open communication line around those things, you know what I mean? So there's direct contact and connect to it. So for me, what I've learned is just that I am more than capable, because if I wasn't, I wouldn't be going through it, I think. I think that's the understanding of what I learned in terms of feeling like that I wasn't capable of being able to do all of those things, be a family guy, be a dad, be a husband, and also handle my business. I do those things now simultaneously, you know what I'm saying? Because I allow more fullness for myself so I can give more fullness, if that makes sense. But if I prioritize one particular point or area in my life, then the other areas are not as fruitful as this one would be. You feel me? So I pour into all of those other bottles. So eventually, as I look at them, like, oh man, look what we've created and look what we've built.
Yes.
Look how I've shared myself and didn't allow this thing to just be linear in my life. So that was my approach to it.
You know, I want to speak to the two of you, because what I see a lot in relationships is where when two are not as busy, but is one doing more so than the other, the person starts to lose themselves within that person. They forget that they also have a life too, right? So for instance, just say guy, girl, whatever the case may be, your partner is always working. Rightfully so. They're bringing home money, whatever the case. But you have become so attached to everything they do, you no longer go out with your friends. You don't go do the hobbies that you like to do. You don't do anything that you want to do anymore. So you're always waiting for them. Why haven't we went out this weekend? Or why haven't we done this? Or why haven't we done this? So now it starts to become resentment. It starts to become complaints versus saying, you know what? Go ahead, baby. I'm about to go hang out with the girls. Or, hey, go ahead, babe. I'm about to go work out. Or go ahead. Because now you become all about them, right? That you've lost yourself to where, all right, I don't know who I am. I don't know what I'm going to do today. So because you're never home, I'm starting to not like you. Like, what's going on? Like, we need some time. That's one part of it. But on the flip side of it, for us, for instance, we had to make sure we didn't get lost in our own selves, because we are, like, I don't look like what I'm going through right now. I'm so tired. Trust me. We film every day for our show, and the kids, and the other work, the construction work that doesn't happen on TV, the real estate work that doesn't happen on TV, the overnight shifts that are happening at 3 a.m. when we're building stuff. What we have created, and people believe in us, we've created an amazing support system. Because we are who we are, meaning like we don't just talk the talk, we actually walk the walk. So if we say, listen, we need some help because we're getting ready to build a rocket. My mother be like, all right, so how long it's going to take? When you going to do it? Because I'm here to help you. Only because they believe in us. So my mother moved to Georgia. My aunt moved to Georgia. A few of my cousins moved to Georgia. Sister-in-law moved to Georgia. Friends, literally to support us, right? But even with all of that support, we still need support. And the reason being is because we don't want to abuse the support we do have. So we're like, all right, mom had a Saturday. Okay, next Saturday, give it to auntie, and vice versa. So I say, with your question, if you can get a support system, right, to make sure that, okay, we've been working a lot, let's have us time. Meaning like those date days. Don't stop dating each other, right? We do where we put 100% into our careers, 100% into our work, our jobs, but then we come home and give it 50%. Like that don't need work too, right? So you can't go all in on work and then go half on your relationships.
All right, next question.
Yes, Coach Joe, PKBasketball.com podcast. Want to ask you a question. What is your techniques and what resource you use when they get ready to download for hours and hours at a time? When they yada, 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 blah, 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 yeah. So what do you do, and what's your techniques? Give me some advice on that.
Brother,
I
you
think
want on
you're
your
trying to get
gravestone?
hurt in here.
What do you want on it?
You know how they say you got to read the room?
I'm answering this.
You see how many of them in here?
I got it.
Go
I got it.
for
I
it.
got it. I got it.
Woo.
I got it. I got it. I got it. One.
Take us to church.
All right. One. You can't consider it as a download. You have to consider it as you are being allowed an inside look at research that you actually don't even have to go look for. Right? Communication, communication, communication. If she is what you say, downloading into your system what she needs she's telling you from her heart space, from her emotional space, from her logical space, your partner is telling you what they need, right? You should be downloading that. You should be downloading that. So now you can assess what they are saying and then say, hey, like I mentioned earlier, overshare. This is what I need too. As a man, I said vulnerability, but not just all the way around. Sometimes in Egypt, I'm going to say this because I remembered it. We don't have it all together. We don't know. We don't know how we feel. So if she's telling you all this stuff, you need to tell her how you feel too. And it's not being angry. It's just saying, hey, baby, look, I didn't know that. I don't even know what I'm feeling. I don't know how to process. Where am I in this actual circumstance? So maybe y'all might be in the same circumstance at the same time, feeling the same way, but y'all are each other's two biggest obstacles because you're not actually intaking the download. You feel what I'm saying?
I will also say this too, that I feel like Skyh is over here being so damn profound, and I mean, I love it, right? I'm here for it, and I mean, you over here making your wife proud. She over here smiling. I mean, grinning. I'm here for it. But here's
that's
the thing,
therapy,
though.
bro. That's therapy.
What I will say is that when you in the day-to-day of marriage, shit gets lost in translation. And there are times where you just like, you know what you should be doing. You know how you should be responding, but it's like I done been to work all day. I got 3 kids. Everybody tugging on me. I got one just threw up on me and one just blew out her diaper. So therefore, I understand, like, you know, that there are times when you're just in the routine of things that it's just like, okay, now I don't feel like hearing this, and I don't receive it as, you know, something that is viable information that is going to help us thrive. But I'm seeing it as now you nagging. And now you getting on my nerves. And it's just like, I think the best thing that you could do in that situation is say, hey, I don't have the space for it right now.
Communication.
And if I don't have the space for it, can we revisit this in another time where I do have the capacity to be able to take on what you're saying in a meaningful way that's going to give it back to you so that we can actually grow together?
That's
So-
profound too.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a
So
And you know what? I do want to say this.
go
though,
for it.
Because not always. That's a great point you made, my brother. You as well, brother. About saying, like, sometimes the information isn't delivered in a way which you can in way in which you can hear it. So sometimes it might come through as anger, frustration. Out of all of the things you feel like that you may actually lack, you may feel that within yourself. So I think like having emotional intelligence is so important to really understand what's behind the, I hate you, I'm upset with you, I'm frustrated. Like, is it sadness? Is it fear? Is it pain? I think, so for me and my wife is identifying what's really at the root for me as opposed to just clouding through all of our like, expectations and just egotistical ways. It's just like moving through that of like, well, do you feel hurt? Well, I felt shame in this moment, or I felt this in that moment. So I think that's the difficult part, is knowing that it may not always come on a platter. And sometimes you got to be able to recognize where the sadness or where the lack may be, and then be able to talk through that thing, and then that's what allows you to become closer. Mm-hmm. So that's what I would say, yeah.
So I'm actually gonna respectfully challenge you to reframe the way that you are thinking about that, because if like the idea of talking about my wife saying something to me as I could never that to me I think is already a difficult place to be. Like no matter what she's saying, no matter how important it may be, the ability to think that it's that is already minimized what she's saying and created a potential hostile situation. And so all we can do is control ourselves. And so I would really work to reframe it. And to his point, it's an opportunity. What can I learn? Why does this person have so much to say? What did I miss before? And realize that I need to create a space where this person wants to share with me, and I'm open to receiving it, even if it may be hard, because we can get to a place that is good. But most things that are good or great in life are on the other side of hard. Amen. And if you're not willing to go through that hard because you're creating a lot of mud in the middle, you're never going to get there. So
Come on.
Here's another. Is my mic on? I knew it. I'm like, is my mic? Check. There we go.
we have time
Wow,
for
I've been
one last
talking low
question.
the entire time. I'm sorry. I should have got the sound man on that. But another take on that as well. Excellent. Please take that away. Excellent. Is that when you are listening, don't listen to rebuttal, right? It's about listening to understand. Because if the entire time you're like, yeah, hurry up. Well, that's not da-da-da-da. You're listening to rebuttal, right? Now, on the other side of it, ladies, if he hits you with, I don't have the space for it, don't hit him with, oh, you ain't got the space for it today? Oh, okay. All right. Guess what? I ain't got the space for you either. Don't do that. Don't do that, because it just starts going back and forth where it never works. The conversation never happens.
Well, then it turns into another argument about that.
Exactly. You started with apples, and now you're talking about bananas. I thought we was arguing about apples. No, now we're talking about, so it keeps going, right? It needs to be a team effort where it's like, listen, right now I don't have the space, but when you talk to me, do you mind if you don't yell?
Yes. Oh.
Because I don't hear you when you yell at me. You get what I'm saying? So now also what works is where it's like, okay, maybe, go ahead, let her get it out. The next day you say, listen, I heard what you said. I didn't like it because of how you said it to me. I'm a lot calmer now. So can we discuss what you were trying to talk about? Because I'm in a space of where I might not have understood that. So if you can explain it to me better, because now she's in a better space, right? So that's just a suggestion as well.
All right, hold on. I'm looking to my wife to see if we have time for one more question or no.
They was over here doing all types of questions. We
Look,
about to.
I'm going to do what my wife says.
I'm just playing.
All right, we got time for one more.
Okay. Hi, I'm Kaina. My question is around finances, and I'd love to hear from all of you on this. Mike was
All
talking
of us.
earlier about, well, maybe not, but whatever there's time for. Mike was talking earlier about experiences versus kind of more materialistic focus in a relationship. And I'd love to know from whoever wants to share, like, do you feel like this could be an incompatibility issue when one is more materialistic and the other is more about experiences? And how do you reconcile that when you don't agree on what to spend money on?
Okay, I'll take that. When you're and I know we don't got much time. When you're marrying somebody, first and foremost, you're not just marrying that person, you're marrying their vision as well. So y'all need to have that discussion. What is the end goal for us, right? Yeah, finances are one of the most paramount parts of marriages, right? Again, communication. What do you like to do? What do I like? Where are we trying to go? What do we want to build together, right? Hey, I don't enjoy this. You enjoy that. Hey, how do we do this? What are we setting aside? It is always communication. It is always communication, but not just communication, listening. Listening to what they're saying, what they're placing value. Some people may like more materialistic things and some people may like more experiences. Cool, you set the finances as a unit. For whatever we choose to spend miscellaneous, I'm gonna go get my Chanel bag. Hey, I'm gonna go over here, I wanna go on a vacation. And you can actually get that done together, but you just have to work it out and be open with each other. And I'm done.
I will say, too, that you said something about incompatibility. And I feel like a lot of times we look for things that may not necessarily align right at that moment. But I'm going to tell you, when you get to marriage, too, there are going to be times where one is going this way and the other is going that way. And your job as a couple is to make sure that you can always center yourself and come back, right? I remember feeling in my 7th year, feeling like, who is this person? Like, I woke up one day, and I'm married, and, I have a husband, and I'm like, I woke up one day, and I was just like, I don't know who this nigga is. Like, like, the person that I met, a few years ago would never move like that. So I'm confused as to how we get here today. But then I fast forward to year 10, and I'm just like, we're back on the same path. So I always go back to the foundation of things, of those early on conversations of, are we in alignment with the vision? And if we're in alignment with the vision, I have to understand, too, that sometimes you're going to grow a little bit faster than I grow. Sometimes I'm going to grow a little bit faster than you grow. But as long as that vision and that foundation is intact, we're going to always be able to come back to each other. So don't necessarily discount it as though, we're not compatible per se, unless you're doing it in the very beginning. But just always go back to what is the foundation of it, and just having the cognizant understanding that we're going to sometimes not be in the same trajectory at the same time.
Your turn, H.
My turn? Man, I would say, man.
You can also offer any parting words because we're done after this.
No, I had something on my mind. I think it might have slipped me, but I would say, with the finance thing, is I think recognizing that, recognizing that you two are in it together. I think that what I believe is that you can make your marriage look like anything you want it to look like, honestly. Like there is not such a thing of incompatibility in my mind, because it's like whether or not you're gonna rise to the occasion. So it's having those open and honest conversations around it to decide, all right, what does it look like for you and what does it look like for that other person? You know what I'm saying? So it's like, all right, are you willing to do these things? This is how I wanted to be treated. These are the trips that I want to go on. I like things. You know what I'm saying? So for me, it's like, it's also making sure that, like you said, that we are aligning on the same vision with things, but recognizing that, things are ever so changing within a relationship. And it's up to you two to decide on what you want that thing to look like. Even finances, it's like, all right, I'm willing to do this. I'm not willing to do that. It's just like you mentioned earlier, in terms of just like getting on the same page with your person. It helps you to have clearer, more transparent communication around that. I don't like this. I don't want to go there. This ain't my type of thing. So that's what me and my wife went through. I don't like this one bedroom. I need a suite. I don't need this thing. I need, you know what I'm saying? And then we learn how to ebb and flow in ways in which, it looks different for her, it looks different for me, but, the vision is aligned. So that's what I would say. Not to mean to drag that out. So
No,
apologize.
brother, you got to speak your mind. To touch on the incompatibility part, right? There's so much to it when you ask the question. One, the things that I heard, or should I say that came to mind, is that when you think about relationships, it goes back to, again, understanding the history of the person that you're with. You said you like things. There are people that like things because they lacked things. So they keep buying things because they're in fear of never having things, right? Or in this day and age, unfortunately, you have a lot of people buying things to look good on social media. It's terrible, and it's true, though, right? But then you have where the trauma of the past was, I grew up poor, I grew up broke, I had nothing, I want to buy everything whenever I get a check. And that also shows that, especially in the black community and the Latin community, unfortunately, I was never taught how to use money. I was never taught about credit. I never was taught about the importance of making sure my books are balanced, right? So your incompatibility that you're thinking about may not even be there. It's just a lack of knowledge. Have you ever asked that person how they feel about finances, how they feel about tangible items or materialistic things, right? Have you ever had that conversation? And then have you ever had the conversation about saying, because that's how we got to the experiences over materials. I was like, we keep buying each other stuff. We want for nothing. You know what I mean? Why do we keep buying things? Because sometimes I'll buy you stuff, you don't even open the box. Or you give me something and then it's still got the tag on it. So we are spending money on things that don't really mean anything versus creating things or creating memories or going on experiences for all of us. It's not just me and her. It's, okay, where's the family going in November? And then me and you going in December. And then January, the family, and vice versa. Or you go get your girls' trip and do you, right? So you can recalibrate, so you can be the better you when you show up, and vice versa. I'm going to go do my weekend thing or the week thing. It's about that communication, right? The sitting down and saying, you know what? I do feel good when I buy things, but I understand it bothers you, and vice versa. How can we meet somewhere in the middle and make this work?
And we're out of time, folks. I appreciate all of you. I appreciate the openness, the vulnerability, and we don't talk about these kind of things nearly enough, but they impact all of us. They impact our relationships. They impact how we show up. And so thank you to you all, and we're all done for this one.